My name is Lauren, and sharing this story feels incredibly vulnerable. It's a deeply personal experience that I haven't shared with anyone close to me, but maybe putting it into words will help me process everything. Last summer, my brother and his wife asked me to look after their son, Ryan, while they went away for the weekend. Ryan had just turned 18, a bright and thoughtful young man who was always easy to be around. I agreed without hesitation, thinking it would be a typical few days of movies, snacks, and easy conversation. The first day went by uneventfully. Ryan and I spent time watching a comedy series, laughing over silly jokes, and catching up on life. Everything felt normal, but I could never have anticipated how much would change the following day. It was late morning when Ryan mentioned he was heading out to meet some friends. I was glad to have the house to myself for a few hours and decided to relax in my bedroom. With the door slightly ajar, I scrolled through social media for a bit and then decided to watch something to lift my mood. Everything seemed normal. It didn't even cross my mind that Ryan might come back early, but then the door opened unexpectedly. I turned, startled, to see Ryan standing there, a surprised look on his face. "Lauren, I forgot my keys," he said quickly, but his expression betrayed more than his words. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. I felt my cheeks flush with embarrassment as I scrambled to cover myself, wishing I could disappear. "Ryan, you should knock," I managed to say, my voice trembling. His gaze shifted nervously and he stepped back, muttering an apology. "I'm sorry," he said, almost too quietly, before turning and leaving the room. The rest of the day passed in awkward silence. Ryan avoided meeting my eyes, and I felt a tension in the air that hadn't been there before. That evening, as we sat in the living room, I decided to address what had happened. "Ryan," I began cautiously, "about earlier. Let's just forget it, okay?" He nodded quickly, but his expression remained unreadable. "Sure." I thought that would be the end of it, but the unease lingered. Over the next few days, Ryan seemed to find excuses to be around me more often. Small touches, lingering glances. It all felt strange, yet there was an undeniable connection forming between us. One evening, as I was cleaning up after dinner, Ryan approached me. His voice was hesitant but steady. "Lauren, can we talk?" I turned to face him, drying my hands on a dish towel. "Of course, what's on your mind?" I just I can't stop thinking about what happened," he admitted, his cheeks turning red. "Ryan, it was an accident," I said quickly. "There's no need to dwell on it." "It's not just that," he said, taking a step closer. "I feel different when I'm around you, like I can talk to you about anything." His words took me by surprise. I wasn't sure how to respond, so I stayed silent, hoping he would say more. "You're someone I trust completely," he continued, "and I think I might feel something more than that." His confession left me stunned. Ryan was my nephew, and the thought of anything more than familial affection was unthinkable. But as he stood there, vulnerable and honest, I couldn't deny the pull I felt. It wasn't right, and yet I couldn't ignore it. "Ryan," I said softly, "this can't happen. You're my family." "I know," he replied, his voice cracking. "But I've never felt this way before." I placed a hand on his shoulder, trying to steady us both. "We have to set boundaries. Whatever you're feeling, it's not something we can act on." Despite our conversation, the tension between us didn't dissipate. Ryan's presence became a constant reminder of the complicated emotions swirling inside me. I tried to focus on my own life, but his messages and visits continued. One evening, I received a text from Ryan. "Can I come over? I need to talk." I hesitated but replied, "Okay." When he arrived, his expression was serious. "Lauren," he began, "I know you said this isn't right, but I can't stop thinking about you. You make me feel understood in a way no one else does." "Ryan," I said firmly, "this isn't about what we want. It's about what's right." "Then why does it feel so real?" he asked, his voice filled with frustration. I had no answer. The truth was, I didn't know why. but I knew we couldn't let these feelings take over. Over time, we managed to maintain a semblance of normalcy, but every shared glance, every moment alone felt charged. Ryan's honesty had forced me to confront my own feelings, feelings I wasn't ready to admit. My marriage had been strained for years. My husband, Mark, was often distant, his attention consumed by work. The emotional void I felt with him only made my connection with Ryan more confusing. One night, after Mark left for a business trip, Ryan texted again. "I need to see you," I replied. "Not tonight. It's too complicated." His response was immediate. "Please, I'll keep my distance. I just need to talk." Against my better judgment, I agreed. When Ryan arrived, he stood at the door, hesitant but determined. "I don't want to make things harder for you," he said, "but I can't pretend I don't care." I sighed, stepping aside to let him in. "Ryan, we've been through this." "I know," he said, his voice steady. "But you deserve to be happy, and I can see that you're not." His words cut deep. He wasn't wrong. My marriage had become a hollow shell, and Ryan's presence filled a void I hadn't even realized was there. But acknowledging that felt like crossing a line I couldn't uncross. "Ryan, this isn't about what I deserve," I said. "It's about what's right." He nodded, his eyes filled with a mix of sadness and understanding. "I just needed you to know how I feel." After that night, I resolved to focus on repairing my marriage. Mark and I planned a weekend getaway to reconnect, but the distance between us felt insurmountable. Every attempt at conversation fell flat, and I found myself thinking about Ryan more than I wanted to admit. By the time we returned home, I knew something had to change. I couldn't keep living in this limbo, torn between my responsibilities and my emotions. Ryan and I eventually found a way to maintain our connection without crossing boundaries. Our bond remained strong, but we both knew where the line was drawn. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary.